Hello, friends and fans of the podcast. Welcome to another Friday, another day in our special spot in the Milky Way. Yep, I like that line, and I think I'm going to keep using it, whether you like it or not. Okay, I need to start this episode off by saying this. No, just kidding. By saying this, that this may be one episode where I make a few enemies. I really do believe that there's a possibility, if my screaming in your ear just now didn't make enemies, my opinion about this next artist, I think might get misunderstood, and that is perfectly fine. I'm used to being misunderstood. It's not a problem. Okay? Now, why am I also fine with me making some enemies with this episode? Well, because they say love and hate are very alike. You know, actually, I'm just being corny. I never got that expression. You know, having someone want to murder you is not really the same as having someone want to hug you. I mean, am I wrong? Are they not very different? Hate and love? But that's what they say. They say the fine line between hate and love is fine. Was that redundant? It was. But anywho, I don't give a toot. All right. Fiona Apple. Early Fiona Apple was awesome. Now, she has 5 studio albums. And here's why people are going to hate me. I think her first album and 2 songs from her second album were awesome. And then she changed drastically, and that's perfectly fine. There are a lot of people who really identify with her current material. I think she also has more emotional and mental freedom now when she writes her music, so she might actually currently be closer to the artist she wants to be. However, all that being said, I just really loved her first album, and I am not alone. It went triple platinum. It regularly makes the list of the top 100 albums of the 1990s. Now, it was released on July 23rd in 1996. It is called Tidal, Tidal. And I won't say I'm disappointed with her current material, but like many artists, like Mark Knopfler and others, she completely changed into a genre that I just don't identify with musically. I can appreciate what she does, but I just don't identify with it. I actually don't listen to it. I don't find the same enjoyment in listening to it, although I can see that it is definitely born of a lot of talent. Now, her first album gets missed by a lot of people of today. If you were born in the 90s, if you were born in the 2000s, you might actually only really be familiar with the Fiona Apple of the 2000s. Her first album was in 1996. I believe her second one was in 99. I'll have to double check. But the first album is really what I'm going to focus on. Today, we need to B sharp and see that album for the masterpiece that it is. It's raw. It's perfect in its imperfection. And I remember when she released that album, not only did I have a crush on her because she was quite attractive at 19, I would sleep at night. Now, we're the same age. I'm a year older than she is. I would sleep to that album on almost a nightly basis. I would put the CD on and just have it replay and replay and replay. I literally had dreams of becoming the type of artist that she was. I even had dreams of like meeting her and like collaborating with her on music. I just really identified with that first album. Now, before I get too much into the music, I need to talk a little bit about her history and about how she got discovered. Now, many believe, including me, or believed, I should say, I used to believe this. She was just a 19-year-old teenager, which is also redundant, who had a demo tape, and she got lucky. She just, hey, take a look at my demo tape. And then next thing you know, bam, she's signed with Sony. You know what? That's actually based on truth. So when people say that, it's not false. It's just that there are a few more moving parts, okay? Both of her parents were in the entertainment business. Her mom was a singer. Her dad was an actor. She had some connection to the entertainment world, which may have brought her to the acquaintance of her friend, who knew a music publicist, who knew an executive over at Sony Music. So things were aligned well for her. In fact, I believe her friend, who I think her friend babysat for the publicist, and then the publicist gave it to Andy Slater, who worked at Sony Music. So things did align for her, and any smart businessman would have looked at a 19-year-old Fiona Apple who was writing her own music, who had an image that people could relate to, and think, okay, well, I think I can make this work. I mean, there was a spot for her. There wasn't really anything like this being done. This type of music, this type of image, and so she was signed to a record deal by Sony. And Andy Slater was the one who signed her to the deal, and the rest is history. However, it is her history that I'm interested in. Yeah, go to the first album, Tidal. Listen to the whole album. But I'm gonna put 4 songs out there for you to put on your YouTube turntable. The First Taste, Shadowboxer, The Child Is Gone, Slow Like Honey. The other songs on the album are good. In fact, her most popular song that I think she ever released like ever in her life is the song Criminal, and it's on that album. But I'll be honest with you, it's not the same. Like if you listen to her song Shadowboxer, it's raw music at its core. She would hold a note for quite a bit, but never even use like the slightest hint of vibrato. She might not have even have known how. Whatever the case is, the songwriting is great, the delivery is great, and it's all done with someone who was classically trained on the piano, but like she was almost like self-taught jazz. I read in an article once about her years ago, and I was obsessed with her, that she would take a book called The Fake Book. It's essentially a book of jazz standards, jazz songs, but it's like the skeleton of the song. It's just stripped down to its bare minimum, but there's enough there so that if you were to play everything, if you were to sight read and play everything just as is, you would get an idea as to how the song is. And then it was really up to you to kind of embellish and, well, improvise over the chord changes. And that is what she did. She got the fake book, she figured stuff out, she improvised over the chord changes, and that had an influence on her. Then, of course, she started listening to other artists, like Ella Fitzgerald and what have you. So she got that female jazz singing in her mind as she was also moving from classical piano to more of a jazz type of piano. Now, if you look at Wikipedia, it's going to say that her style of music today is Baroque. Right? And okay, let me go over this with y'all, because this is actually a little funny. Baroque, of or relating to 17th or 18th century European artistic expression. Yeah. I never knew what the heck the word Baroque meant, and now after reading the definition, I'm even more convinced. I don't have a clue what the heck it is. I do not classify her first album as such, mostly because I don't even know how to classify anything as Baroque. You know what's Baroque? My vocabulary's Baroque. It ain't working. But seriously, listen to the 4 songs I mentioned. Don't think of the word Baroque because it just doesn't make any sense. The First Taste. Listen to it. Go to YouTube. Put it in. Put it in. She starts the song off by saying, I lie in an early bed, thinking late thoughts. Poetic? You tell me. Just the way this song is constructed, the way it builds up. I know it had a lot to do with the production of the song, but everything is different in this song. It's nice to hear how the guitar sounds distant. The levels are down low. It sounds far away. It's got reverb turned on. It has a nice feel. It almost feels like the guitar belongs to another song. I love there's like a sudden stop and then like a little bit of a drum beat with some kick drum coming in as she goes into the second chorus. So the song is built simply. The chord changes are not crazy. They're not complicated at all. None of her songs are complicated, but the expression, the lyrics, the production, everything else is just vividly expressed with passion, with pain, and it's really just the tip of the iceberg. Now go listen to Shadowboxer. This song here, she just hits you with her vocal tone. This is where she comes across as being maybe like sultry in nature, you know. Her piano playing is nice on the song, but again, very good production. Weird instrumentation, weird effects, different effects, nice effects on the instruments. Nothing like this was being done in 1996. Not even Tori Amos was doing anything like this. And I don't think there's one Tori Amos song I even identify with. Fiona Apple sometimes gets like lumped into that category. Why? Because she's a female singer who plays piano? I don't know. But something else to take into consideration, this song proves something, that you can have a bass guitar play with a bassy kind of piano playing, which is the kind of piano playing that Fiona plays in this song. It's a very low, bassy kind of piano playing. Okay, another song from the album, The Child Is Gone. Go to YouTube. Put it in. Put it on the YouTube turntable. Can I put those words together? YouTube turntable. The U turntable? That just sounds stupid. I like Gatubist. By the way, I want credit for that. If you ever hear anyone else saying Gatubist, it's mine. Artie Astor, right here. I coined it like months ago on my podcast. But The Child Is Gone. The lyrics are very nice. It starts off with, "Darling, give me your absence tonight." And I honestly think, and I mean this, and this is not me being corny. I actually have an eye for certain types of artists. I honestly believe that if she and I had ever worked together on music, we would create some good music. But that's just how life is, isn't it? Life is full of things that never happened. So that won't happen, but that's perfectly fine. But it's nice. This song is nice. Again, very sultry, low. Her voice is inexperienced, but experienced at the same time. It's almost like, oof, how can I put this? Let me just, okay, use words. Go to your brain, Artie. Be spontaneous. Okay. All right. She sounds inexperienced as a vocalist, but her experience with deep, dark emotion, her experience with just like being able to kind of look yourself in the mirror and say, screw it, this is who I am, this is what I am, this is what I'm going to give the world. That experience comes out in the way she sings, even though she doesn't sit there and employ 1,000,006 different types of vocal techniques while she sings. But in her inexperience vocally, she creates little things that only she does, because she actually is not sitting there copying anyone in particular. She's doing what Fiona Apple knows how to do, which is what you get also in the song Slow Like Honey, my favorite song from her. I can remember in my early 20s literally listening to this song in bed, and at one point I fell asleep. And I dreamt that I had written this song with her. I dreamt that we were working together. I swear I was obsessed with her music for about a year. Again, simple construct, but a complicated and passionate delivery. This is what makes that music so good. Its construct was simple, but her production, her lyrics, and delivery, there was nothing being done at that time. She fell right into place. It's almost like there was a space for her, just waiting for her. And then, bam, 1996 comes out, and it's like, here you go, Fiona. We were saving a spot for you. You know? And I love the line in the song, slow like honey, heavy with mood. It's just perfect. But anyways, that is her first album. To me, a true masterpiece. Now, I need to just say this, because I don't want Fiona Apple fans, and I don't want Fiona Apple, if she ever listens to this podcast, to think that like, oh, I just, her first album is the only thing worth anything. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm trying to say is I'm not a gigantic fan of Fiona Apple's current music. Now, I'm a fan of her older stuff, and there are two songs from the her second album. It's got a really long title, so just look for the song. They had the album "When the Pawn," and then that's her second album. I believe the two songs are Paper Bag and To Your Love. Those are the two songs on the second album that I like, that I really identify with. Now, am I saying that her current stuff is like unlistenable? You just can't listen to it? No. Let's do this together, okay? Seriously. If you just listened to the 4 songs that I asked you to listen to, or at any time, if you do listen to those 4 songs from her first album, okay, go to YouTube, put in the album, Fetch the Bolt Cutters, and just listen to it from beginning to end. Listen to any song on the album. Listen to the first song. It's called I Want You to Love Me. What she did is that she went in the opposite direction as Pink Floyd. So Pink Floyd started off very, very abstract and psychedelic, which is fine. There's a lot of good material in their first 4 albums or 5 albums. But honestly, I really don't identify with almost none of their first 5 albums. I mean, there's like 2 songs. I'm like, ooh, I liked Julia Dream, which I don't even think got released on an album. I think it got released as like a B-side to a single. Seriously. Like, however, what ended up happening with Pink Floyd is that they started off extremely abstract and psychedelic, and then as time went by, they became a little bit more progressive, but also more traditional. Even though the songs were 15 minutes long, they had some kind of construct that your average music listener could follow. It fell more into the category of traditional music, in the sense that people didn't hear the song and they were like, wow, this is different. Whoa, what was that? That's a neat little sound. Whoa, that's a weird trick. Whoa, what did they do right there? Wow, why did they stop so suddenly? Whoa, what's the... And so Pink Floyd veered away from that, and then they became a little bit more traditional as a progressive rock band that still had a little bit of that psychedelic flair. Okay, Fiona Apple did not start that way. It was almost like she listened to like Ella Fitzgerald and Etta James, and she was practicing these chords, and at the age of 19, she had an album ready, and she delivered it. And it's like a jazzy soul weird, like it's got like it's not just jazzy, it's got like a bunch of other stuff in it, but it's got a nice feel to it. Really, really different. Over the years, she has become extremely abstract, and I don't immediately relate to abstract music. I don't relate to heavy psychedelic abstract music. Her song Shamika. Now that's a good example. I think that's song number 2 on her newest album. So if you go to her newest album, listen to the first 2 songs. Listen to the first 2 songs. I Want You to Love Me and Shamika. Now, Shamika, I think, was the most successful song on the album. Listen to it. It's very Broadway kind of sounding, but stops and starts and, and sudden changes. And it's not flowing. And, when I'm on I swear she wrote this thinking of Broadway or of like a play or theater. It's extremely theatrical, which is really nice when you're at the theater. I don't listen to theater music, which is what I honestly believe this is where why they classified her as Baroque, right? Because her stuff sounds like Broadway music. And I can deal with Broadway music when I'm at Broadway or watching a play, things like that. I don't chillax to that type of music. That's why I don't really identify with it, although it's very nice. But you be the judge. Listen to her first album in 1996. Listen to her last album in 2020. A 24-year difference, right? You tell me. I mean, do you see a difference? I see a gigantic difference. I tend to really relate quite well to that first album, so much so that it's in my opinion, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. But that's it. That's literally the episode. B sharp and C, early Fiona Apple. You can text us or call us at 1-781-728-5974. You can email us at keepitgroovybaby@gmail.com. And that's all I've got to say. So until next time, this is your host, Artie Astor, saying, keep it groovy, baby.